We are now going to begin a new series, if you will, a new topic. Until now, we learned in the Encyclopedia Talmudit, the Talmudical Encyclopedia, under the topic of Ger Toishav. Rather, the topic was Bnei Noach. Then we have another one called Ger Toishav, which we did not yet do. We will now begin doing the one under the topic of Goy. And this is to be found in volume 5 of the Encyclopedia Talmudit, Hey. And that would be Goy on page 286, which is numbered as Reish Pei Vav. 286. In this entry of Goy, there are some 20 or more sections, and this one section, 20 or more parts, as each entry has various different parts, such as it starts off with explaining what Goy is, the relationship with the way that a Jew and a Goy is, with regards to marriage, with regards to sacrifices, and many other related issues. The interaction and the attitude that the traditional Judaism has for the Jew, how to interact, and what the various laws that the Goy has. So the first thing is we're going to define exactly what a Goy means. So we're on the left-hand column, which would be Reish Pei Vav. And again, the entry is Goy, Gimel, Vav, Yud. And the definition of that is Adam me'umois ha'olam she'enoi mi'Yisrael. A person, a human being, from amongst the nations of the world that is not an Israelite, not a Jew. In other words, any human being that is a non-Jew. And then it lists the chapters that are going to be under this entry called Goy. The first one being Gidroi, his halachic, by Jewish law, the categorization of who is considered a Goy by Jewish tradition. Adam she'enei miYisrael, a person that is not from the Jewish people, nikra batera b'shem nachri, is referred to biblically in many verses as nachri, nun chaf reish yud, which literally I think the best or the closest translation would be a foreigner or an outsider. K'moi, and now he brings a number of examples of different verses from the Chumash, from the Bible, where the individual that's not Jewish is referred to as a Nachri. Es ha-Nachri ti gois v'asher yelecha es achicha tashmet yodecha. It's a verse in Devarim, Deuteronomy, chapter 15, verse 3. That would be in Parshas Re'eh, where there it's speaking about demanding payment for a loan. So the verse says, the Nachri you shall demand from, and your fellow Jew, your brother, you shall relinquish, let go of the debt when it comes to the Shemitah year. How much there? Anyone? Right there, right there. Yes. Thank you. All right, the verse says as follows. It's speaking about the sabbatical year, the year of Shemitah, the 7th year. So one of the mitzvahs biblically is that any financial loan is automatically abolished when it comes to the sabbatical year, that if someone borrowed money from someone else and the Shemitah year arrives, he need not pay back that loan. He does not owe the money. But that is only between two Jews. For the verse states that the Nachri, you the Jew, shall demand payment from, but if it's a fellow Jew, let go of that debt. So there the non-Jews refer to as the Nachri. Another verse. Lo yisuchal laseis alecha ish nachri asher lo yachicha hu. You will not be able to place, you're not permitted to place upon you a man that is a nachri, who is not your brother. That is in Devarim as well, chapter 17, verse 15. That would be in the next Torah portion, called Shoiftim, and the mitzvah there discussed is appointing a king for the Jewish people. So there the verse states that you're not allowed to appoint a non-Jew to be king over the Jewish people. The pasuk refers to the king. Sem tasim alecha melech. You have a positive commandment of placing a king upon you, and it says mikerev achecha, from amongst your brethren you shall place upon you a king. Lo yisucha laseis alecha, you will not be able to place upon you ish nachri. Again, the word nachri, a non-Jewish man, asher lo yachicha hu, who is not your brother. So those are two examples where the word nachri is used for the non-Jew. V'chein b'navi, and likewise in the prophets, we also have a verse, and this verse is from the book of Kings 1, chapter 8, verse 41. And it reads, V'gam el hanachri asher loy me amcha Yisrael hu v'goymer. And also the nachri, which is not from your nation Israel. Pass me, please. Right there. Yes. Thank you. The verse says as follows. It's referring to God listening to prayers. And it says, V'gam el hanochri, and also to the non-Jew, asher loy me amcha Yisrael hu, that is not from amongst your people Israel. Uva me'eretz recheika l'man shemecha, but will come from a distant land for your name's sake. So clearly, it's talking about a non-Jew. And then it continues over there, like two verses later, Ata you Hashem, God, Tishma Shamayim Mechoin Shivtecha, may you hear from heaven the foundation of your abode, Ve'asisa kechel asher yikra elecha hanachri, and act according to all that the nachri, the non-Jew, the Gentile, calls out to you. L'man yedun kol amei haaretz, so that all of the nations, all of the peoples of the earth shall know as Shmecha, your name, Lira oischa, to fear you, Ke'amcha Yisrael, as does your people Israel. V'lodas k'shimcha nikra al habayis hazer asher banisi, and so that everybody should know that your name is proclaimed upon this home, this edifice which I have built, referring to the temple. So this is talking about the building of the first temple, when King Solomon built the first temple. So he says that Hashem should accept the prayers of the Nachri, clear, and it says who is not amongst the Jewish people. So there you have another verse where the non-Jews referred to as the Nachri, V'oid, and others. So we have three examples, two from Chumash Devarim, one from Navi, from the book of Melachim, Aleph Kings. V'nikra ben Nechar, another term for the non-Jew is the ben nechar, which ben literally means son of, or it could mean a member of, or someone who belonging to. So a non-Jew is called a ben nechar. As the verse states, an example, Umiknas kesef mikol ben nechar asher lo mizaracha hu. And this is going back to Bereshis, Genesis 17:12. This is talking about the mitzvah of circumcision, the bris milah. This is the end of the portion of Lech Lecha, where Avraham was given the commandment of circumcising all males that belong to him. So the verse says, "Uven shmoinas yomim yimoy lochem kol zachar ledoyroiseichem." And at the age of 8 days, every male among you shall be circumcised. Yilid bayis umiknas kesef. He that is born in the household or purchased with money, Mikoil ben nechar, from any, and here they translate, stranger, who is asher lo mizaracha hu, who is not of your offspring. So any male person that was acquired by a Jew who is not from a Jewish offspring is to be circumcised as well. So we find the term ben nechar. Or another verse, and this is from Shmois, Exodus 12, verse 43. Kol ben nechar lo yechal boy. Any ben nechar may not eat from it. And that is referring to the paschal offering, the carbon pesach. So, biblically, the word is nechar, or nachri, or ben nechar, which means foreigner, stranger, outsider, non-member of. Aval Hashem goy, but the terminology or the name goy, b'teiras uma, as referring to a nation, v'loy al adam yachid, and not referring to an individual. So biblically, the word goy means nation. We don't call one individual person a goy, if you will. Namar b'mikra afal Yisrael. And therefore, the word goy is even used for the Jewish people, because the word goy means nation. That's how the word is used. So we find that the Jews are also called goy. K'moi, for example, and this verse is from Shmois, Exodus 33, verse 13.
I wonder why I didn't bring in Yeshaya 56 that talks about the Ben HaNechar.
Well, I just brought a few examples. There's many examples where we have the word Nachri or Ben Nechar.
That one keeps Shabbos.
That Ben Nechar is the one who...
There's a Ben HaNechar and there's a Ben Nechar.
And who makes that distinction?
The Torah. One of them's...
That's the prophet, right?
Yeah, that's the Haftorah for the fast days.
Seems like one of them's a distinction for like a gear, and another one's a distinction for...
So in Kisisa, where it's speaking about the sin of the golden calf, so this is where Moshe is pleading with Hashem for closeness, to be near Hashem. And then he says, in verse 33:13, Ve'ata, and now, imna matzasi chen be'einecha, if I have indeed found favor in your eyes, hoidieni na es drachecha, please inform me, let me know your ways, ve'edoacha, and I shall know you, lema'an emtza chen be'einecha, so that I shall find favor in your eyes. Ure'ei and see ki amcha hagoy hazeh, that this nation is your people, clearly referring to the Jewish people. That's the whole point. So over here, hagoy hazeh, this goy, is referring to the Jews as a nation. Or another verse, and this is from the book of Joshua, chapter 10, verse 13. This is a famous story where one of the wars of conquering the land, so the Jewish people, in fighting the nations, the Canaanites, needed more daylight. So Joshua turns to Hashem, and he asks for success in this war, and then he commands the sun and the moon to stay still so that they can have more daylight. And the verse says as follows. First, in verse 12, Oz Yedaber Yeshua la Hashem. At that point, Yeshua spoke to Hashem. B'yoyim teis Hashem es ha'moiri lifnei b'nei Yisrael. On the day Hashem delivered the Amorites before the children of Israel. Vayoymer le'einei Yisrael. And he said before the eyes of Israel, Shemesh begivoin doim. Sun, stand still in Givoin. Yareach be'emek ayoloin. And moon in the valley of Ayoloin. And then comes verse 13. Vayidoim hashemesh. And then the sun stood still. V'yareach omad. And the moon stood still. Ad yikoim goy oivav. Until the people took retribution against their enemies. So clearly talking about the Jews are the goy in this case, fighting their enemies. So the sun and the moon stood still, and the Jews had extra daylight to be victorious in that battle, and the Jews there are called goy. V'chayoytze beharbe mekoymois, and as is also found in many other places where we find the Jewish nation referred to as goy. So although in the literature, the common usage of the word goy, as he said in the one-line definition, means any member of the human race that's not part of Bnei Yisrael. However, if you take a look biblically, the word goy simply means nation or belonging to a nation, including the Jewish people. Okay, now you said Yeshaya.
That's 56.
Uvnei hanechar hanilvim al Hashem l'sharasoi avos Hashem l'yes le'lavodim. So there it's referring to the non-Jews that join the Jewish people, whatever join means.
Right, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think there's a distinction between Ben Nofri and Ben HaNofri.
I'm not sure if that is, if there's any, it may just be a grammatical way of saying it. B'nei HaNechar or B'nei Nechar. I don't know. Any commentaries point that out?
One, but I don't remember offhand. I just remember a year or two ago.
B'nei HaNechar. And the foreigners who joined themselves to Hashem to serve Him.
Is that Nilva?
What?
That would be Nilva, yeah.
Join? What's the word for join?
Nilveh. Same sherish as Levi. When Levi was born, so she named it that because now my husband will be attached to me because I was the third boy.
Nilva is Lashon Kodesh?
What is?
Lashon Kodesh? I've never heard that word other than this passage.
Levi or Nilveh?
Nilva.
Yeah.
Does it say Ben HaNofar there?
B'nei, it's in the plural. B'nei is plural. Hanechar is kind of singular. Sons of the of the foreigner.
Yeah.
The word
And
to
then you have
become
the
servants
attachment
unto
going
him.
on.
Kol shemer Shabbos, all who guard the Shabbos, mechaluloi, against desecration. Machzikim bevrisi, and grasp my covenant tightly. Let's see this one, Yeshaya.
Oh, yeah. Well, not really. I mean, I can't even quote what I saw from the commentary. It was a commentary on distinguishing difference between a ben ha-nocher, nochri, whatever, and a ben nochri. The ben nochri is like, I think, somebody who's like an idolater, a complete idolater, and you treat him like a nochri. I think this is alluding to somebody who's come from nochri, like his dad was a nochri, but this guy is attached now to Israel. He's like, yeah, that's those are fighting words.
Yeah, so the Targum here says, and members of nations which become added onto Hashem's nation to serve Him. So it seems like it's talking about a ger, someone who was not Jewish who became Jewish.
It just piqued my interest when it was quoting about Ben Hanefer. That's what it reminded me of.
Also, well, according to the Targum, that would be people that converted to become Jews.
Yeah.
And that would explain why they're keeping Shabbos.
Yeah. Uvnei amemaya, the mitaisfin al amei da Hashem l'shamashusei, to serve Him.
Why would it be such a big deal though for a prophet to talk about it?
Why is he talking about the converts?
Yeah, I would think it would be an automatic thing. Was there people in Yeshaya's time that was saying things like Ger shouldn't be doing that or something?
No, he's speaking of a time when there'll be people from the nations that are coming in to become Jewish.
But then why is he rebuking Israel?
But this is at the end of Isaiah, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Is he rebuking Israel at that point?
At the last part of the chapter there. He's saying Israel's like become asleep or something. I forget. Just interesting.
Oh no, here, this part, and then, because the next verse says that I'm going to bring them to my holy mountain, and I will have them rejoice in my home of prayer, and their sacrifices, will be offerings that I will find favor. For my home, referring to the Beis Hamikdash, is a home of prayer. It will be called for all nations.
What is it used for nations there in the
Amim, the whole Amim, for all the nations, for all the peoples, as they say in English.
the people's prayer? And is the Encyclopedia saying that Ben Hanacher is something different?
Well,
Different than what?
Would have started.
Different than what?
Than what Yeshaya is quoting?
No, he didn't what do you mean? He didn't quote this verse. He just said there are many other such verses where goy is referred to as Jews. In other words, Nachri or Ben Nechar is what we find in Tanakh a non-Jew is called, as opposed to goy, where that could be a Jew as well.
He says Ben Nechar. Interesting.
Right, either Nachri or Ben Nechar. Those are the verses.
I'm wondering if there's a difference.
But here on this verse that you're bringing in from Yeshaya 56, so the Radak, he compares it to the verse that the Encyclopedia Talmudit brought in from Kings about Shlomo Melech's prayer that Hashem accept the prayers of the Ben Nechar. It says, the Nachri. V'gamel ha-Nachri asher lo me'amcha Yisrael hu. And also to the Nachri that's not from your people Israel, accept his prayers. So the Radak says that's the same thing over here when the verse says, Uvnei ha-Nechar, that they're going to be accepted to, and they're going to rejoice in the Beis HaMikdash. L'chol ha'amim, all the people, like Shlomo Melech said in his tefillah, and also to the Nechar, how much more so to those that are actually converting to become Jews. You know, everyone is to be made felt welcome in the Beis HaMikdash. Those non-Jews that are coming to serve or to pray in the Beis HaMikdash, when they come to convert, and he says, just like a guest comes into a house and you receive him with joy, so too he's commanding the priest, the Kohanim, to accept with simcha those that are coming lehis gayer, to convert.
Simcha's going to be there.
Me and Shmuel shaking.
It's interesting because it seems like one is referring to them as being actual, scared tzedek, attached to Israel, and then another one's they're not. They're just non-Jews. Which, if they're coming to the Beis HaMikdash, they'd have to at least be Ger Toshav status, I would think.
Why is that?
Because it wouldn't be allowed in the land.
V'simachtim beveis tefilasi, I will rejoice them in my house of prayer. They will be rejoicing when they see themselves in the courtyard, in the temple courtyard, which is the home of my prayer.
In the courtyards were
Bazara. Year after year, together with the Jewish people, in their prayer and in their sacrifices.
because only Israel's allowed in the inner parts, right?
Yeah.
But on the outer parts that's where the Gerim are, where the women are as well, or something like that. Is that the courtyard?
There were different borders, and there was a section where the non-Jews were allowed up to that point, and after that, regular Israelim can go, and then after that, the Kohanim.
I would think those people have to at least be Ger Toshav.
I don't know about that. Maybe.
Well, on the level that they're behaving themselves while they're in the land.
Well, they're just coming in to prayer to bring a sacrifice.
Yeah.
So the question is that do we allow them entrance into the border of the land if they just are coming in for, just for a day, just to pray or just to bring a sacrifice in the Beis HaMikdash?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so biblically, the proper term is Nachri or Ben Nechar. But then he continues, Chachamim, the sages, the rabbis from the Mishnaic era and after that, Hirgilu, have been accustomed, Likroi, to call Leish She'enei Yisrael Goy, to a person, to a human being who's not an Israelite, who's not a Jew, to call him a Goy. So that's really a rabbinic terminology. Lefi, because Sheksheratzu Lahazkir, when they, the rabbis, wanted to mention Mishe'enoi Yisrael, someone who's not from the Jewish people, and it isn't clear to them in their statement that they want to make or whatever, from which nation that individual that they're talking about is. Whether he's from the nation of Edom, or from the nation of Ishmael, or any other one of the nations. So what the rabbis would do is they would just call him Goy, a member of a nation. Kloimar meaning, Shumi goy acher sheinem Yisrael. He's from a nation other than the nation of Israel, even though, as we said, biblically, a Jew is also a goy, and the nation of Israel is also a goy. But for the sake of discussion, the way that the Chachamim began speaking using the terminology of, they would say goy, meaning a member of any nation other than Israel.
Rabbi turn.
Yeah.
And Chachamim, is that a certain designation of rabbis, like a time period, or?
Good point. It is not specific. Generally speaking, when we use the term Chazal, which means Chachameinu Zichreinu Livracha, that would be the same thing as Chachamim. Generally speaking, it is Mishnaic and Talmudic, the Gemara era, which includes all of the Midrash, and not past that. Although you will find in certain instances where we will use the word Chachamim or Chazal, and it goes past a little bit past that. But as a general rule, it's safe to say that it's the Tanoim and the Amirayim, or even pre-Tanoim a little bit. But after that, the Rishonim, for example, we wouldn't refer to as Chachamim.
Thank you. Okay.
So Rashi and the Rambam would not be in that category, generally.
And in Chazal is we know the first. And what was the two last ones you said? What's the
Chachameinu, Zichreinam Livracha, of blessed memory.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
So that's just an acronym. So Chazal is an acronym for that.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
So Chazal and Chachamim, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Let's call him Razal.
Right, they're called Razal, which is Rabbi Seinu Zichreinam Livracha, and same thing, same difference. And the same thing when you would say Midei Rabbanon, it's also the same thing. When you say Rabbinic, Rabbanon, so that means that it's a law or a decree that the rabbis made. Well, which rabbis made it up? So it's got to be something which is those that have the authority to make rules that are governing all the Jewish people, which that would be up until the conclusion of the Talmud. Once the Talmud has been completed, we don't have universal decrees which are binding to everyone. You have different things that a different Beis Din could do, but it was just for their community or what have you.
Like Rabbeinu Gershom of marriage and stuff.
Exactly. Even though it seems to be pretty universally accepted, but technically not. And throughout the generations, the non-Ashkenazic Jewry was known that they never accepted that, and he never had the power, so to say, with his Beis Din to make that excommunication or that decree on the others. And even though he's from the first Rishonim, Rabbeinu Gershom is quite early.
Oh, interesting.
He's not that much after the Gemara.
Oh, no. If anybody marries another multiple women.
Okay.
Yeah.
Polygamy, I think they call it.
Yeah,
So Sfardim.
Yeah, they can, and even you'll even find as recently as 100 years ago that they did.
I chose the right man. I chose the right stuff on me.
All right. Afal Pi, even though Shebiloshen HaMikra, that in the language of the Mikra, of the Bible, of the text, Lo nemar goy al hayochid. You don't even find the word goy referring to an individual. By definition, in Tanakh, goy means nation. So even if you want to say that for the sake of our discussion, we're going to refer to it as a non-Jew, although we see that biblically a Jew is also called, the Jewish nation are also called goy, but you will never find that an individual is called a goy. It's only a nation. And the one place where you couldn't have a discussion and seemingly an argument on this point, as he brings down in footnote 9, would be when the argument that Avraham Avinu is making back in Bereshis, chapter 20, verse 4.
No hide. Is that-
Well, actually, it was Avimelech. When Avimelech unknowingly kidnapped a married woman, namely Sarah, he was unaware that she was actually the wife of Avraham. He was under the impression that she was his sister, and it would be fine for him to marry her. He didn't realize that she was a married woman. So when Hashem appeared to Avimelech in the dream and told him, stay away from that woman that you took because she is a married woman, and Avimelech got very scared that he was going to be punished. So he said, Hashem, Hagoy gam tzadik taharoig. Will you slay a nation even though it is righteous? That's one way of translating it. Otherwise, you can say that he's talking about himself. And it's in the singular, the whole thing. Hagoy, the non-Jew. Gam tzadik taharig, will you kill him even if he's righteous? So there, the commentaries have a whole discussion. So that's the one verse where arguably one can claim that the word goy can talk about a single individual. But short of that, or according to this translation, that's not how they do translate it as nation, even in that verse. But short of that, whenever we find the word goy, it's always plural, and it's always talking about an entire nation. Af benusach habrachos amru. So too, in the text of the brachas, of the benedictions, that the men of the Great Assembly, known as the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, they're primarily the ones who made up the Siddur, the prayer book as we have today, and all the prayers and all the blessings and benedictions that the Jewish people are required to recite daily were made up by the group of rabbis called the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. It's probably fair to say that most of our prayers were by Ezra HaSofer, Ezra, who was the high priest. And, however, following him, there were others as well. They were all members of Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. All right? So, we have in the morning blessings that every Jew says, a whole list of blessings where he thanks Hashem for various things. Every day. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam. Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe. That, this. We repeat that again and again and again and again, as you'll see in the Siddur. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam. Ta. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam. Ta. But one of those blessings that we say every day, tzarich adam levarich b'chol yoim, a person is required to say this blessing every day. Baruch sheloi asani goy. Blessed are you, Hashem, who has not made me a goy. A nation? I'm glad to be one person. I'm glad I'm not a whole nation. What do they mean? Shene'emar, because there's a verse which states, and this is in Yeshaya, Isaiah 40, verse 17, which is actually incorporated in part of the prayer a little bit later in the preliminary part of the actual Shacharis after the morning benedictions. We bring down the verse, Kol hagoyim ke'ayin negdoi, that all of the nations are like nothing, opposite or in the eyes of Hashem. Everybody is so insignificant and so non-existent compared to the only one and only true existence. So the verse there, the prophet says, Kol hagoyim ke'ayin negdoi. So that's where, according to many, we get the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, the authors and the compilers of the prayers, got the term goy for thanking Hashem for making me who I am, a Jew and not a non-Jew. So we use the word goy. All the nations are like nothing before him. Okay. So we clearly find the word goy in our prayers used as an individual, as a person. Af bas hagoy, so too the daughter of a goy, of a non-Jew, karu b'shem goya. So they also call her a goya. So it's like they're coining a new term. They're saying they feminized the word goy. So to begin with, goy means nation. But now we, the rabbis, have decided to use it to mean non-Jewish person, even an individual.
That's a really good point.
And then they decided to make it also in the feminine. So that is referred to as goya.
That's really interesting.
And they make the brand chickpeas. Someone noticed that but me?
Yeah. Goy shabala goya. For example, you'll find the terminology of a goy that had marital relations with a goya. So they're calling it, they don't mean a nation with...
A feminine nation.
Yeah, there's no such thing. The word, see, every word in Lashon HaKodesh in Hebrew is either zachar or nekeva, right? There's no it. Every single noun is either male or female. And there's very, very few, but they can be both. But otherwise, there's no word it. It's either he or she, him or her. There's no it in Lashon HaKodesh. There's no way to say it.
There's no neuter noun,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, so when they're saying goy and goya, they don't mean a male nation and a female nation. They mean a male non-Jewish man and a female non-Jewish woman.
That's really good.
Which is actually kind of redundant, the way I said it. A male non-Jewish man and a female non-Jewish woman. Yesh shekaru legoy. Now there are those that refer to the non-Jew as armoi. All right, and the source he brings from that is a brisa in Avodah Zarah, 26b, that a non-Jewish man is called armoi, and we don't mean from the nation of Aram or anything like that, Armenian or something. That is a general term for all non-Jewish men. Vila nekeva, and then for what would be the non-Jewish woman, any and every non-Jewish woman, aramis. So again, it's the same word, just in the feminine. And that's the way it is in the Mishnah and Sanhedrin. And it gets very confusing because that is a very specific nation with a very specific language. Aramis, as a matter of fact, is what we call Aramaic. But they're not talking about the language, and they're not talking about someone belonging to Aram. They're simply, they've made it into the feminine way, and that is Armai is a non-Jew, and Aramis is a non-Jewess. That's all.
So they kind of had their own thing then.
Yeah. So let's go back to the time. That's going back to the Mishnah times.
Okay.
See, it's talking about over there if a Jew has marital relations with a non-Jewish woman, which was the story that happened in the Chumash with when Pinchas, the grandson of Aharon HaKohen,
Zimri or something?
exactly. So Zimri ben Salu, who was, up until that point, a very great Jew. He was the leader of the tribe of Shimon. So Zimri went and had relations with a princess of a non-Jewish nation. With, you ever heard of Bill Cosby?
Yeah.
So apparently they're saying that, whatever.
He was
Yeah, so Cosby Bas Tzur.
Cosby.
So her father, Tzur, was, a great leader in the non-Jewish nation. And the way that the Chazal, the rabbis of blessed memory, explain the story is that Pinchas came running over to Moshe Rabbeinu and told him, because Moshe was at a loss for the moment as to what to do. What is the right thing to do? So Pinchas remembered, and he came over to Moshe and he says, but didn't you, telling his uncle Moshe, great uncle, didn't you teach us that, and here are the words that the Chachamim use, Haboyel Aramis kanoyin poigin boy. That if someone has relations with an Aramis, then a zealous people should attack him, should kill him on the spot. Don't take him to the basin, to the court, and just on the spot, in the middle of the act only, if you can get him at that point, kill him. It says, Aboy al Aramis. And you wonder, Aramis? Cosby wasn't an Aramis. She's from Midian. So there we see that they're using the word Aramis to simply mean a non-Jewish woman. So Armoyi and Aramis is another term used as Goy and Goya, which seemingly Goya is a made-up word. It's a made-up, it's a coined word. It's a more recent word, which presumably you will not find in Tanakh. L'goyim rabim. So now what about many goyim? Yesh shekaru b'shem acherim. So some of them, so what do? They made up another term. And they referred to them as acherim, others. So goy is one, and many of them become acherim. Acherim simply means others. Kamoi, for example, now this is all in rabbinic literature. This is not at all biblical literature. Yeah. What do we find? So there's an interesting thing. When it comes to chametz, which is the very forbidden leavened mixture of a grain, one of the 5 grains, with a liquid that which fermented or rose, and it became what's according to biblically known as chametz, and that is a big no-no for any Jew on Pesach, on Passover. We cannot eat, we cannot own, we cannot have anything to do with the smallest amount of chametz. That's what chametz is. Ches, mem, final tzadik. Chametz. Okay, fair enough. So, in Psachim, it says as follows. Shelcha, yours, i'atoroye. You are not permitted to see. A Jew may not see his own chametz on Pesach. He can't own it, and a separate prohibition is he can't see it. Avol atoroye shel acherim, but you may see others. So what does that mean? Are different Jews? So no, a non-Jews, or in the plural, acherim. So a Jew is allowed to see chametz that belongs to non-Jews on Pesach. There's nothing wrong with that.
So if you sold it to a non-Jew, that was once your chametz.
It's not yours, you sold it,
Yeah.
so you'd be allowed to see it. Right. So let's say that the chametz that is, well, sort of in my possession, can't be my possession either. That's why you actually either rent out or do something similar to that legally, your cabinet or your whatever area you put it in, you actually rent it out that to the non-Jew as well. So I have in my house a container or what have you, or a cabinet of some sort, which I rented out the cabinet to the non-Jew. The cabinet's not chametz, but it's full of chametz. It's got a lot of bread in there. So I closed it. I may have put a lock on it, and then I gave the key to the non-Jew, or he'll break the lock, whatever, it's his choice, my choice. I put a piece of tape, whatever I did. I put a sign that said chametz, sold, do not enter. Okay, that's talking to me and to my family.
If you're in
Right.
Texas.
Yeah. But the non-Jew,
Texas.
it's his. Okay. So does it have to be invisible? Or could it be a clear glass where I can see all that beautiful, delicious bread, but it's got a lock or it's got a big sign which says chametz are sold, so I won't come to accidentally eat it. So by halacha, there's no problem. It doesn't have to be in a way that I can't see it. It's not mine. I'm walking down the street, and there's a non-Jewish bakery, and there's all this pita bread and all this wonderful, delicious bread. It's not mine. Whose is it? Acherim. It belongs to non-Jews. So that is an example that he's bringing to show you that the word acherim is used for the plural of goyim. Kamoi, okay. And as there are other such examples. Oi, or alternatively, another word that they use for many non-Jews, amamim, which would be peoples. And that is from Masechta Beya. And very interesting, in footnote 16, he brings down a few places where Onkelos, that happened to be a Ger Tzedek, Onkelos was a convert, and he wrote the translation of the Torah into Aramaic. And on Bereshis, Yud Zayin, 17, verse 12, and a few other places, again, on this verse where it says about circumcision that we brought down before. So it says ben nechar, right? That anyone who the Jew bought from any ben nechar, any male that was bought by a Jew from a ben nechar, shall be circumcised. And that word ben nechar, Onkelos says bar amimin. So there you have the Aramaic for ben nechar.
It's like a Rosetta Stone.
And another one would be in Devarim 15, verse 3. Which is the other verse that we brought down before, where it says, Es hanochri tigois, that the Jew is obligated to demand payment from the non-Jew when it comes to the Shemitah year. The sabbatical year, he has to let go of any debts that a Jew owes him. But a non-Jew, he is obligated to demand the debt. So Onkelos there says, from the Nachri, from the Bar Amamin. There he even puts the word bar, which means ben. The verse doesn't say ben nechar. It says, Es ha-nachri tigois. Ha-nachri. And Onkelos says, mean bar amamin. All right. So there we find that amimim is a term for non-Jews.
Interesting.
Now, what they don't mention here, or at least not at this point, is that a lot of this has to do with censorship. Because we're now going to give a whole list of terms that we find in Chazal, in the Rabbinic literature, that is referring to non-Jews. But don't forget, because of the censorship, some of it may just be which was tampered. It wasn't the original terminology. But let's keep that on hold. Just wanted to throw out that thought. Kama shemes acherim, there are a number of other terms, matzinu bitfusim shel Talmud, we find in the various prints of the Talmud. Again, see how they're saying it, the prints of the Talmud. Because you'd have to really go back to the early manuscripts or find the original. But in the printed versions of the Talmud, we find other terms for non-Jews. Kimoi, for example, like Mitzri. And we don't necessarily mean an Egyptian or an ancient Egyptian. Any non-Jew is called Mitzri. Kenani. That for sure, that's very common. Adoimi. Amaleki. Kushi. Kusi. And again, when we say Kusi, we don't mean a literal Kuthi or Kuthian, or what are they called in English?
I think it was anglicized as Samaritan.
Samaritan. Well, that would be Shamranim. That's the other ones. But no, here we find that Chazal use the word Kusi, and they mean what we call Goy, or what they call Goy. And that's exactly what he says now. These are later corrections because of censorship. So therefore, when you're going to find in Chazal the term Mitzri, Knani, and all that, it's just confusing, and it was changed because of censorship.
Is there any system to how they would use one word or another word?
Not that I know of.
It's probably whatever the Christian nation they were under wouldn't get offended with.
Yeah, or whoever was in, yeah. And then, of course, there are those that they corrected that what it should say is akum as an acronym, which stands for Oived Kechavim Umazolois, one that worships stars and constellations.
So they got changed. We'll say that again. Or what? They got changed.
Another correction.
Oh, another correction.
Instead of saying goy, they became akumized. Oived Avodah Zara, or it refers to them as an Oived Avodah Zara, one who worships idolatry, any other foreign other than Hashem worship. Or Oived Elilim, one who worships statues or other gods. So those came later. So again, originally in the rabbinic literature, the word is goy or goya, or armoy aramis, or acherim you'll find, and amomim. After that, all these other ones are basically corrections of the censorship, which, when I say corrections, we mean that sarcastically or whatever. So akum usually is not supposed to be akum, and so that really confuses things, because when you're learning something and you want to know the status, and it says, okay, so when it comes to Shabbos, here is the, and you say akum, so say, all right, that's an akum, but this guy's not an akum. He categorically denounces Avodah Zarah. He accepted Shev Mrs. Bnei Noach. He's a Ger Toishav, how about that? Oh, well, of course he's not an akum if he's a Ger Toishav. Well, maybe it's not supposed to say akum. Well, what should it say? Goy. Oh, well, is the Ger Toishav a goy? Well, what about an Evet Kanani? What about Tzaskerus? So it gets really kind of complicated if we don't know the proper terminology. So when it says Mitzri, unless it's talking about an Egyptian, you realize that it's not Mitzri. When it says Kusi, unless it's talking about a Kusi, because there's so many halachas that are talking about Kusim, but if it's not one of those, then when it says Kusi, it means Goy. And so on.
So when it says akum, it means goy, is what he's saying.
Unless it's talking about, unless the topic is Avodah Zarah, and we are trying to define, is this goy an idolater or not? So then it would make sense to say akum or oived Avodah Zarah. But if you're just giving me a generic halacha, so then why using the word akum? I'll give you a few common examples. There's a concept called bishul akum. Food, certain types of food, that was cooked by a non-Jew. So a Jew is not allowed to eat that. It's a rabbinic decree that a Jew can't eat bishul akum. Certain foods that were cooked by an akum, really, it's bishul nachri. Because biblically the word nachri is the non-Jew. Or the same thing as chalav akum. That's what it's called. People call chalav akum. There's Chalav Yisrael, which is milk that was milked or supervised by a Jew. And then there's Chalav Akum, which is milk that was milked by a non-Jew, unsupervised by a Jew. That's not called Chalav Akum. It's supposed to be called Chalav Nochri. Or Pas Akum. There's bread, which it's preferred for a Jew not to eat. And that is if it was commercially baked by a non-Jew. So that's called pas. Pas means bread, baked bread. Akum. It's not akum. It's pas nachri. So it's chalav nachri, bishul nachri, pas nachri. Yes.
How come in Alter B'Shulchan Aruch, primarily in Hilchos Shabbos,
Also.
No, he differentiates between nachri and or he uses those terms in like the same set of halachas. Like one halacha will say nachri chula v'chula, and the next one will say goy chula v'chula.
I think it was also censored, even Alter B'Shulchan Aruch. The Tanya is even censored. It's very confusing.
What would goy and nachri be censored from? If they were the original terms.
No, the original biblical term is nachri. And then the rabbinic term is goy.
But he uses nachri in one like halacha, the next one he'll use goy. Nachri, goy.
And seemingly there's no difference.
That's what I was confused by.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why, but it looks like we're going to get bumped out of the live video.
So I'm going to try to go really fast and tell you.
No, what I'm saying is I'll probably restart it.
Oh, back to that.
I'm not sure what's, it's ending in just a couple seconds.
Okay, another example would be when it comes to Shabbos.
No, but I mean...
You mentioned Shabbos. So there's a thing by Shabbos called Amir La'akum. A whole set of halachas, a whole sugya in Shabbos, halachas of Amir La'akum.